So I went through a lot of games in my backlog in order to get up to date. I say up to date, but I think I stopped around 2024. Now, I didn't play all of the games in my backlog to completion because I had a goal. That goal is to see what games I liked and wanted to beat. There were some games I disliked, but completed, and some games I didn't even try to finish. Neverwinter Nights was something that was interesting, but I quit it because I built wrong and didn't want to restart the game. There were a lot of older games I kind of didn't even attempt because I didn't want to deal with bugs if it could be helped. I skipped the Half-Life series because I felt like I would have liked two of the games and disliked the others. Again, I've never played the series, so I'm just guessing based on what I've seen when I watched other play the game. But just know that if any of the older games are on this list, then it was a game I liked a ton. Also, I know this is a list, but I wouldn't say placements hold any weight. 10 isn't any worse than 1 in my book, since this is just a list of 10 games in my backlog I like to play. May also go through games I already made videos on, but new things will be said. Also liked the idea of Spellforce, but didn't care to continue it since it wasn't my type of game for streaming. I beat 19 games in my backlogs, which means I have to cut down the amount of games by essentially half. Not really half, since it isn't 20. It would have been 21 if I added Shadow Warrior and Sleeping Dogs. Sadly, I couldn't, since I beat Sleeping Dogs off stream, and I couldn't beat Shadow Warrior because of a bug. So I removed games if I already made a video about it, and also if I didn't really care much for the game when I played it. Number 10 is Quantum Conundrum. Quantum Conundrum gives me the vibes of one of my favorite games I've streamed, A Story About My Uncle. I said vibes, but I still wouldn't say that this game was even in my top 10 of games I streamed this year. As a game made in 2012, in my opinion, it still holds up. So in the same way A Story About My Uncle starts up, you go to your uncle's house, but something wrong has happened. Your suitcase is floating and other weird things happen as you traverse through the entrance. Sadly, this game doesn't feel like an adventure, but a level selector where you have to go through different levels to appease your uncle. Thankfully, your reward for doing the puzzles to progress is new powers that you need in order to progress. The powers are related to the glove you are given in order to traverse through this massive house. I kind of wish the story was a lot stronger because it was a lot weaker than I thought it would be. The goal in the game is to fix the house, so that both your uncle and yourself are in the same dimension. The puzzles were reasonably hard to a point I had to look up videos to solve them. The sad thing was that even after watching the videos, a lot of puzzles dealt with timing. There was one puzzle that I still remember to this day, that you had to balance a cube on a scale in order for it to make a few full turns. You had to change the weight of the cube in order for it to make a full clockwise turnaround. It was very easy to mess this up, sadly, which is why I was stuck on this type of puzzle for a while. Also, the game is listed as a platformer, but I feel like the platforming aspects affect more of the puzzles than the trekking. Overall, story wasn't as strong, but it was in the right time. Not really a game I would recommend, but was a game I would remember for years to come. Number 9 is Mag Runner, Dark Pulse. Mag Runner, Dark Pulse is another puzzle game, but one that is completely different. The main reason it's different is because Cthulhu is involved in this game. Sadly, not in the way we want them to be, since we don't get powers based on them, but there are cult-like aspects in this game. You also have to deal with a lot of enemies, but and a puzzle-like aspect. You have to use different puzzle-like aspects in order to fight the enemies. Best way is to remember how you fought in Portal if you played that game. Now the story wasn't bad. I feel like the game could have been a lot better if they focused more on the action adventure. I feel like if you got powers from Cthulhu instead of it being a reminder of what is happening, then the game would have been better for me. Mag Runner is one of those games that could have been amazing depending on how much they decided to push the game. Again, I had fun playing this game, even though I'm not the best person to rate puzzle games. The main reason is because I'm bad at puzzles, but I digress. The story was interesting, but this game wasn't good enough to get the adventure action tag. Number 8 is Fahrenheit Indigo Prophecy Remastered. Funny enough, Fahrenheit is a word I remember because of Fahrenheit 451. In high school, we had to read that book. It is a book I remember after all these years. I would definitely recommend you to read it if you haven't, but sadly this game had no relation to that game. This game reminds me of a fever dream Alan Wake, but in a somewhat turn-based fashion. Again, this game isn't turn-based, but based around decisions you choose throughout the game. Now, Fever Dream is the best way to explain this game because I can't really explain what this game is. It gives a lot of references to other movies and genres. Movements are clunky, but the way you go throughout the game is interesting. So you have to make decisions throughout this game and make sure to check everything before moving on to the next scene. Also, this game is interesting because you have to go through different perspectives in order to get the full picture of the story. Story feels like it's going every other way, but I did like it. Now, it is hard to really recommend this game. Like I said earlier, story is a fever dream, and gameplay is weird because of quick time events. But if you like weird games like Heavy Rain, then you may like this game. Sadly, there is an adjacent meme to rely on. I mean, this whole game can be used as a meme in my opinion. Also, while remembering the game, it also gave me really bad manga vibes for a lot of reasons. I'm talking about the mangas where the MC gets overpowered in the worst way possible. There are a lot of cult-like aspects in this game. So you have that in case you ever decide to look at this game. I got coffee cake muffins, right? The thing was, stopped even caring about coffee cake muffins or coffee cake entirely because there is a show called Kids Next Door, and there is a scene that involves coffee cake that scarred me for life. Now, if I was a fucking asshole and a piece of shit human being, I would showcase what scene I was talking about. But because I want to be a good person, I'm not going to do that. But yeah, it made me disgusted and not want to even remotely go near coffee cake ever again. So, yeah. Anyway, back to this video. Number 7 is Morkrud. Morkrud is another puzzle game in this list. I own way too many puzzle games as someone that isn't good at them. But unlike the other puzzle games in this list, you have to do it with a partner. Thankfully, you can do it solo, meaning you don't need a friend to help you complete the game. Sadly, it's one of those games where having a friend help you out makes this game a whole lot easier. It took a while for me to get through this game because of the dual aspects. I wouldn't even recommend this game unless you play this with a friend, since it takes way too long to beat it because of it. So the main goal for this game is to progress. You have to escort a ball of light and can't really stray far from it. If you do, then you die, since all that is around you is darkness. Can't really talk much about story with this game, since it is more about the adventure than anything else. Also, the main reason you escort the ball is because all around you is darkness. Without the ball of light, you fade into the darkness. You also have to protect the orb of light, because if it is attacked, it breaks really easily. Game is fun and interesting, and with very fresh mechanics. Number 6 is Loki. Loki is one of those games I already talked about before in the video. I already sang its praise when I reviewed it, so let's do it again. It's one of those really cheap indie games that just hit the spot even though it's criminally short. I still love that Silk Song released at $20. Praise the indie gods, everyone. Also, I bought the game, for $25, or probably more, with taxes because I wanted the soundtrack, so yeah. But yeah, the story, even though it wasn't the most amazing thing, was still good and rounded out. The gameplay was point and click since it was a puzzle game, but different from the other puzzle games in this list. The other games kind of followed the same format, in which you have to solve an environment-based puzzle. This game needs you to find items in the world, then use it on other things to progress. It reminded me of Anna's Quest when I played it, but a lot easier. I also felt like I was more invested in the story with this game since the main character wasn't really oblivious to everything. If you enjoy story games with puzzle aspects, then you will like this game. I would advise you to watch my review video to get a full understanding of this game. Number 5 is Vanquish. Vanquish is a weird game to talk about because it is a mecha, but not at the same time. The best way to explain it is that it is a third-person shooter in which you have an advanced suit. The suit being this advanced suit of armor that only your character has as a fight with the army. The story wasn't bad for a shooter, but I feel like this game was meant to have a sequel. I can say that because even though the ending showed everything was finished, there was still a lot to be done. Also, the weapon system was interesting because it kind of played like a looter shooter, but with upgrades. You could upgrade certain guns, which upped their damage and the amount of ammo they could use. Much as I did like the upgrades, I did dislike having to look for my specific guns, since you had to use whatever guns were around the map. There were times I went through the game without seeing ammo for my weapon for about 3 levels. Now the idea was to use weapons that was around the map in order to use what you see so that you didn't have to worry about ammo. The problem with this is that if I upgrade a weapon, then I want to continue using that weapon. I also like that you had people to run around with, and it wasn't the usual shooter where you have to go solo. Not the worst shooter I've played, but would probably be top 30 of all the shooters I've played before. I'm not making a top 50 list of shooters I've played because I want to hope I haven't played that much. Also started gaming forever ago, so it would have to be games that I have streamed. It would just be too much work, so no. Number 4 is Nobody Saves the World. Nobody Saves the World is a very fun and interesting game. This is a weird game to explain because the MC is nobody special, hence the name. In an action game, the main character usually holds a lot of power, but sadly the MC doesn't. Well, their base form doesn't. So in this game, you unlock different forms in order to fight and beat enemies. The weird thing is that in order to level up most of these forms, you have to do specific missions. You have to do a specific amount of missions in order to increase the grade of the form. Most forms start at the base rank of F and can go as high as S. Now, what is the benefit for raising the grade of these forms? So the main reason you would raise the grade of the forms is to unlock the other forms. A lot of the forms are locked behind you having to be a specific grade of certain forms. The other reason to level these forms is to be able to use different abilities to put these forms aligned. My favorite form was the rat. That was because the attack was fast and proc poison on every hit. Add in a stun ability and also some lifesteal and becomes the strongest form. Again, this isn't the strongest form whatsoever, but it was my favorite form. Some of these missions were really hard to complete, but you had to do them in order to upgrade the forms. Gameplay felt kind of stale to me since you kind of just did the same things over and over again. Again, you were in charge of how the forms were built, but still got boring really fast. Story was more comedy based than anything else, since it wasn't really a serious thing. There were some serious story points later down the line, but can't really be that serious when the base form is what it is. The best way to explain this game is that it's a dungeon crawler with different forms, so that the gameplay doesn't go stale. Story isn't remotely great, but the characters are fun except for one Mandork-like character. Number 3 is Unsighted. Unsighted is a game we just recently talked about. It was a fun game with a time mechanic. It's really fun because of all the different ways you had to complete the game. Truthfully, there was really only one way to complete the game, which was the speedrun. If you don't speedrun it, then it is possible to lose every companion. I thankfully only lost one person, and that was because they were somewhere I couldn't get to. Even though I was stressed out from having to do everything perfectly, I still had fun. I wish that there was more than two types of weapons. But it is what it is. You either had swords or a battle axe. The sword is fast, but the axe is slow, but powerful. Parrying is truthfully the only way to progress in fights. After parrying a set amount of times, the enemy will get downed, which allows you to attack them for free until they get back up. It is also the best way to get through this game with the least amount of deaths when it comes to your character. The time mechanics makes it a very interesting game, since you are kind of forced to think about how to progress. If you just take your time, then you can lose people and run through resources. I had to run through the game twice in order to get everything done perfectly. Oh, like Undertale, I did everything I wanted to, so I have no need to go back to the game. Number 2 is Afterimage. Afterimage is a Metrovania like the previous game we talked about. It's truthfully more akin to Hollow Knight than the other game. I beat the game, but truthfully I didn't do everything that I could do in the game. I missed out on a ton of skills because it felt like the game was dragging on for way too long. The story wasn't really all that good, and I didn't really care for the characters. So Afterimage follows a girl as she witnesses her mentor get murdered and goes after the person she saw above her body. Learn more about what is happening in the world and also what type of person her mentor was. Weapons are varied and interesting to the point that every weapon could be good depending on how you use them. Bosses weren't all that hard, since most can be beaten in 1 to 2 tries. There are also symbols above the enemies that are above your weight class. Usually this was shown in an area that wasn't supposed to be explored yet. I mean, you could explore it, but just know it would be really easy for the enemies to kill you. I didn't have a ton of fun with this game, but you may. Number 1 is Grek. Grek, Memories of Azor, is one of those games I was actually debating on making a video about. Another Metrovania game, but done in a different way. So like Morkride, you have to pilot other people in order to progress. You start off as the youngest of the siblings, and your goal is to find your other two siblings. You have a sword and a will to progress. I liked this game a lot until I got to meet my other siblings. Now that isn't because I disliked the way they played, but because piloting them was annoying. When you jumped around one character, all the characters jumped if they were all linked. Every sibling had their own health bar, so you could lose if they died because you were focusing on killing an enemy. Yes, that means if a sibling died, then you had to reset. This game was fun, but the game mechanics weren't made for me whatsoever. To really solidify this point, I went solo in the final fight. So you can link and unlink all the siblings. If you only want to progress with just one of the siblings or two, then you can. But I went solo in the last fight and was able to win in a few tries. Also, I disliked that the oldest sibling didn't get more screen time because once you find them, the game is very close to ending. Give me more game time and more time to enjoy a skill set. But I did like this game, but no, the co-op mechanic wasn't something I really care for. Also, it's not because it's a older sibling thing. Like, I'm the youngest, so truthfully speaking, if I were to put myself into anybody's shoes, it's the person that you see the most. It just, he was pretty good. He had a shield, so he could block things. So he's very much a knight, and I couldn't use him because it was a very short amount of time he was on the screen. That was 10 games that I kind of liked in my backlog dive. I should have played more games on my backlog, but I kind of skipped anything I felt I wasn't going to care for. I only got to 19 games, which sounds like a small amount to me. A few people beat even 5 games a year. I feel like a ton of people start games and kind of just put it down after a while. I hate the streaming culture that kind of makes you play different games every stream because viewer retention is garbage. I have no idea what kind of games I'll play in Tor because I'm currently trying to finish my Bard run. So probably that. I'll also try to beat Serialum Ultimate if I have the time since I played it a few times on my Steam Deck. But what does this list accomplish? Truthfully nothing, since it wasn't really a tier list of any sort. I want to play even more games on stream, but sadly that is impossible at the moment. I did tech for Tor, and now I have to work on a weird type of gig in which I have to wake up early, get home too late to really stream. For next week, I have to be up at 5 a.m. so I can leave my place around 6:15. Now, why work when I should be getting tour money pretty soon? So, the main reason is that before I got this tour, I wasn't really getting much gigs, so my funds were kind of running out. Picked up this gig shortly after getting the tour and knew it would be a good way to get more funds in my pocket. Also, they didn't even give me the schedule until 2 days before the gig started. I just worked 2 days this week, and then on my way back home from the last day, they sent an email that we were going to work 6 days next week. Yay to never getting sleep. But the things we do not to be broke. Anyway, plans is to use this money to buy my tablet on the first day off from tour. Other news, in a few hours I'm getting my phone delivered because I needed a phone. So my phone for the longest time needed to be replaced, but I put it off since it still works. I kinda was even fine when I had to bang my phone on the desk in order to hear from the speaker. I kinda draw the line at not being able to listen to music from my earbuds because it's infuriating when music is being cut out. But hope you like the audio from the new mic. I'll be testing it before I actually record this video, so it should be good before I even get to editing. I have no idea when the next video will be, since I haven't really beat anything in a while. I could work on playing GTA 4 and try and complete it, since streaming won't really be a thing, but we'll see if I have time to do all that. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video of my backlog dive. Hope you all have a great week and an amazing day. My name is Oni Incubus. That's been my time. Later days. I love you all. Sending you all kisses, essentially. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Mwah. Alright, see you all again. Hopefully soon. I love you all. Bye. Love you all. Bye. Love you all. Peace, baby. Peace out.